Hello everyone, I'm Frances and I work for Somerset Libraries. I have another tongue twister for you. Today I'm going to talk about the letter E. A letter E is very straight with three arms sticking out at the side. Can you do that with your fingers? It's used for the names of people and places because they're important. Some of the names in today's story start with a big E. I can show you two people. This is Edmund and this is his sister Eliza, and their names start with a big E and it sounds like E. F for Edmund, F for Eliza and E for elephant. They have lots of friends whose names also start with a big E. Emma, Ella, Edna, Erin, Eric, Evan, Elliott and Emilio. And I'm sure you have some friends whose names start with a big E. And you might have heard of the names of these places. Exford, Elworthy, Exeter, Edinburgh, England. They all start with a big E because they're important. For ordinary words, you use a little e, and that's a round letter. Two ordinary words which start with an E are egg, F for egg, and elephant, F for elephant. An S sound is usually a very quick sound, and you don't use your lips at all to say it. Can you say eh, eh, eh? But if there are two S together, then they make an E sound, like seed or weed or deed or wheeze. I expect you sometimes behave differently when you're with a friend and get up to all sorts of tricks. Well, today we're going to meet some elephants, and you might notice that all their names start with a big E. And at the end of the story, we're going to meet a very special guest whom you might see a lot more of on Saturday. Today's story is called The Elephant Jamboree. This is Edward Elephant and this is Elspeth. Edward and Elspeth loved exciting events, and they also loved eating eclairs and Eccles cakes. But it was nobody's birthday and they didn't have anything to celebrate. Elspeth was very busy doing her embroidery, and she was drinking an elegant cup of tea. It was a cup of elderflower tea, and Edward was engaged in business enterprises. Their children, Eliza and Edmund, were very bored. They had done all their daily elephant exercises and watched every episode of Elephant Antics. What could they do now? They didn't even like elderflower tea. They put some excruciating music on, very loud. Luckily, at that moment, a mysterious envelope was posted through the door. It contained an official announcement. Elspeth read the announcement. There is to be an Elephant Jamboree on the Esplanade tomorrow afternoon, and the mayor is quite emphatic. Everyone must take part. Eliza and Edmund were so excited. There would be egg and spoon races, egg ping bowling, an egg lifting championship, a toss the Eccles cake competition, a cobweb tightrope walking competition, water squirting target practice, a prize for the best trumpeter, and all sorts of other games and competitions. Well, Eliza and Edmund couldn't wait to hear any more. They raced off to practice under the big elm trees in the park, where they were soon joined by Emma, Ella, Edna, Erin, Eric, Evan, Elliott and Emilio. They all had a splendid time, and they were so tired when they came home. They ate some excellent egg sandwiches and were asleep before you could say enormous elephants. There was one more competition that Elspeth had found out about, mentioned at the very bottom of the invitation. It was a dressing up competition and fashion show. There was a prize for the most festive saddlecloth, and it was going to be presented by a very special guest. Elephant saddlecloths are like big blankets. They're brightly coloured and often decorated with sparkly jewels. They love wearing them for special occasions and festivals. You can see, look, Eliza's got one on here. It's a great big cloth that goes right over the elephant's back. Elspeth was an expert embroiderer, and she also excelled at patchwork. Eliza and Edmund were always climbing trees, falling into ditches, getting tangled up in the brambles and generally getting into mischief, with the result that their beautiful clothes became tattered and torn. Elspeth examined the clothes very carefully, and then she cut out all the good pieces of material and sewed them together to make wonderful saddlecloths in amazing colours. She was so efficient, she had a whole collection. And there were enough to dress Eliza and Edmund and all their friends. You might be able to make some saddlecloths. Perhaps for another animal if you haven't got an elephant. The day of the Elephant Jamboree arrived, and looking extremely elegant, everyone went off to the parade. So they all had their saddlecloths on like this. But when they got there, they wanted to keep their saddlecloths clean, so they hung them up on the elder trees, where they made the most extraordinarily beautiful exhibition. Then everyone had a quick drink from the pool before the games began. Emma galloped off to win the egg and spoon. Emilio tried his best. Have you ever tried this? You have to run with an egg balanced on a spoon, and you have to run as fast as you can. But if the egg falls off, it takes such a long time to pick it up and put it back on the spoon that by the time you've done that, you haven't got a chance of getting to the line as the winner. Anyway, Emma was very good at it. Emilio tried his best, but his egg whizzed off and it landed in a crow's nest by mistake. Eliza was very good at ballet, and she won the cobweb tightrope walking competition. The cobweb was quite clingy and cotton woolly, and it wrapped itself round her ankles, so she managed not to fall off at all. Eric wasn't so lucky. He'd eaten a huge breakfast to build up his strength, and the strands of the cobweb nearly touched the ground when he stepped on them. And then, I expect you remember Sydney Spider. Well, it was Sydney Spider's cobweb, and he gave one of the strands a bit of a tweak, and it pinged, and Eric bounced right up into the air. He bounced right off the cobweb, soared out over the sea, and landed with an enormous splash. All the elephants roared with laughter. Eric was quite proud, and he felt just like a funny man in a show. Elliott had been eating lots of spinach and practicing with dumbbells, so he was already quite good at weightlifting, but he'd never tried lifting eggs before. The eggs had been given by Esther the ostrich, and they were the biggest and heaviest she could possibly manage. They were piled up on a special set of weightlifting trays. Evan, Elsie and Edmund were determined to have a go, but Elliott was emphatic that only he could win, so he went last. Elliott was very, very strong, and he thought winning would be easy, but he was also extremely clumsy, and before he knew it, several of the eggs had tumbled off the trays and landed on the hot paving stones below. He was trying to lift trays like this, and they were full of eggs, but he just wasn't careful enough, and oh, they flipped off. At first he was very sad after all his efforts at training, but he congratulated Edmund politely on winning, and then they both smiled, because the paving stones were so hot that the eggs had fried in the strong sunlight, and all four of them were able to have a fried egg feast. Then they all went to cool down and had a marvellous time at the water squirting competition, in which the Eclair team, led by Ella, beat the Eccles cakes, led by Elton, 24-22. Meanwhile, the older elephants were having a sedate 10-egg bowling match on the green, wearing smart espadrilles on their feet, so they didn't trample the grass too much. The espadrilles could easily be washed in the sea, so it didn't matter too much if eggs smashed all over them. Edna and Erin loved playing netball. In fact, it was a passion, so they were hoping to excel at the Eccles cake tossing. Bobby the baker had kindly provided an endless supply, and soon there were Eccles cakes flying far and wide. They had to pick the Eccles cakes up with their trunks and toss them up in the air, and another team member had to catch them and then quickly pass them on at a great speed to another team member, who would then shoot them into the goal. Eleanor and Esther did their best, but their endeavours were all in vain. Edna and Erin managed to perform all sorts of skillful tricks with their trunks and their tails, making the Eccles cakes spin speedily through the air like flying saucers. And Edna and Erin soon had an Eccles cake feast safely in the bag to enjoy later. Suddenly there was a terrific trumpeting sound to announce the arrival of the special guest, who had been watching all the elephant escapades from the lighthouse tower on the pier. Elvis, Elfrida, Edwin and Edwina were all very musical, and they trumpeted for all they were worth. Elvis was definitely the best. He seemed really professional. Then everyone's eyes nearly popped out of their heads when they realised that the special guest was Elmer the elephant, dressed in all his exquisite patchwork finery. He had come to judge all the elephants in the final fashion parade. The elephants all put on the amazing saddlecloths Elspeth and her friends had made, and with heads held high, they marched up and down in a long line, holding each other's tails. Elmer was absolutely flabbergasted to see such a colourful display, but he finally decided that the emerald-coloured cloth Elspeth herself was wearing was the very best. Elspeth was so thrilled she did an elephant curtsy to Elmer and then couldn't get up again. Edmund and Eliza came to the rescue. Everyone was able to feast on escargot canapes. Escargots are posh French snails and other delicacies, followed by eclairs and Eccles cakes, of course. And everyone agreed it had been the best Elephant Jamboree ever. Edmund and Eliza always treasured their patchwork saddlecloths. They never wore them to climb trees, and they never forgot the day they met Elmer. In fact, they celebrated Elmer Day every year after that. They always put on their brightest elephant cloths and had a wonderful parade. Well, just fancy that. Elmer enjoyed eating eclairs at the elephant's extraordinary event on the esplanade. That's quite difficult to say. I wonder if you can say it. Can you say it as if you were excited, like Eliza or Edmund? Elmer enjoyed eating eclairs at the elephant's extraordinary event on the esplanade. Or how about if you were sipping elderflower tea, like Elspeth? Elmer enjoyed eating eclairs at the elephant's extraordinary event on the esplanade. Or how about if you were an enormous elephant, like Edward? He'd lost one of his tusks. He's feeling better. Could you say it like Edward? Elmer enjoyed eating eclairs at the elephant's extraordinary event on the esplanade. Or perhaps you could say it as if you were right in the middle of an egg and spoon race. Elmer enjoyed eating eclairs at the elephant's extraordinary event on the esplanade. Ooh. Keep practicing. Well, I'm going to go and enjoy an eclair now. Oh no, it's an Eccles cake. I do hope you enjoyed our elephant story today, and please join us again soon. And if you like Elmer the elephant, this year, Saturday the 23rd of May, is Elmer Day, when there will be lots of activities on the Somerset Libraries Facebook page and on the Elmer website. Here's the Elmer website. Wear your brightest clothes and have a happy day. Thank you for listening today. Goodbye. We do hope you enjoyed listening today. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and share with friends and family. Thank you. Goodbye.